teaching about shaft playing for years. The shaft is the most fickle mover throughout the golf swing. Why would you ever use it as a reference point? But you know, people insist on talking to me about shaft playing. So I say, well, what part of the shaft do you want me to talk about? Which part of the shaft interests you? Here's a golf club that is bent and corrupted out of all proportion. However, my hands still have a relationship with the blade. I can hit perfectly good shots with this. Because why? Well, we don't hit the ball with the shaft, we hit the ball with the club head. The last thing you want to be thinking about is what the shaft is doing. Think about the shot, and that means the ball and the club face. So, just treating this bendy golf club in the normal way. I aim at the flag, I take my address position, I have one look, and off I go. You can hear and see that. I absolutely nailed it with the club head. I don't hit the ball with the shaft. Now then, we've understood from earlier what the optimum biomechanical swing plane is. We know that whatever the height of the person, whatever shot they're hitting, there's always a planar relationship from the ball to the upper sternum. So, when teachers talk about shaft plane, they draw graphics in from the head out through the handle. Now, if we see that line, it comes into my body and my navel and would come out of the back of my body onto infinity out here somewhere. Can you honestly imagine me swinging on that plane? The shaft plane at address is entirely different at the top of the backswing. So let's take another look at shaft plane in the horizontal plane. As you can see, the golfing nail is opposite my sternum. I present the club head and take my stance. Now, notice how far below the line of strike the butt of the club head is. The optimum biomechanical swing plane in the horizontal goes from the ball to here. This distance is about 9 inches to a foot. Now, as the swing develops, the club head stays on plane and gradually the shaft rises. Now, if you understand the optimum biomechanical swing plane as I showed you, you will realize that the shaft rises to the plane. On the way back to the golf ball, the shaft may return to the same point, or it could rise. That doesn't affect the purpose and function of the club head. So, we can see clearly that the shaft rises going back, it then falls at impact, only to rise again in the follow-through. Now, with all that complexity, why are we thinking about the shaft plane? If I gave a child a nail and a hammer, where would you train them to look? Surely you'd ask them to focus on the nail head. The moment they start thinking about the hammerhead, let alone its handle, for goodness sake, then they're going to get a sore thumb. So I think the same is true in golf. Look at the ball, hit the shot. I think that if shaft plane was important, Mr. Hogan would have mentioned it. He never did. He talked about the swing as an overall movement. So, step into Explanar, using the power roller at driver length, we can see me building the swing, back and through. It is patently obvious that the butt of the club is below the plane. It rises to the plane, the shaft drops again, only to rise on the follow-through. So we don't need to worry about that. Much better, much healthier to think about Mr. Hogan's explanation of plane shift. What Mr. Hogan did, I believe, was this wonderfully wide takeaway. The club head worked above the biomechanical plane, shallow to it late in the backswing, and then there was an enormous forceful blow against the ball because the club head was in perfect optimum plane. He would release through, tremendous release, he would go onto the plane, and with a final flourish, the shaft would rest across the back of his head. So hopefully we can put to bed once and for all the deathly subject of shaft plane. Far healthier, far more educational, far more beneficial is to think about the plane shift that Mr. Hogan taught. He allowed the club head to go back above the optimum swing plane and shallow to the plane. So there is our third lost fundamental. The shift is to the plane and not below it.